is about the Excalibur, the legendary sword of King Arthur. We all share one positive identity. So it's also about this. See the letters P, Q, letters G, J, P, Q, and Y. G, J, P, Q, and Y. God juxtaposes people's questioning why. Because inherent to consciousness is correlation actively, is correlation's inherent value actively. Every temporary value nature has unchanging positive space nature identity inherent to it, only inherent to it. When we realize this, we're able to realize a complete nature into this nature, enough so that it forces evolution. This is the fourth progression of itself. When we break down the forced progression of this unchanging space positive identity, it's forced from here, from the same grip, unchanging grip to all temporary space values, into all temporary space value natures, which is consciousness, which is only semi-positive, unless, but what's inherent to it is completely never unchanging positive. If that's ignored, that's what's diffusing through us is actively being pushed away. This is causing negative value nature progressions. We're on a value nature system that is and was originally breached, and per methods of linguistic tricks to keep everybody divided and conquered linguistically, to keep everybody evidence fabrication natures only let realized to all areas. We have to understand known but uncharged natures of organized crime in conjunction with campuses, and how that uncharged left legal natures to every nation incapable of not furthering business as pathological breaching nature tools, as measured evidence fabrication natures only let. The world's legal natures, based on this nation's original forced negotiations with terrorist criminal policing of nations. Not just England. England already fell to this too. Human education fell to this too. This means they could get really smart on ancient revelations, but no one understands what was between what already had denatured human education. 500 to 1000 AD. This is what willfully brought humanity into the Dark Ages. And we have to understand too, they took religions to counter this. But religions had to hand off their books to people they knew were already holding convictions attached to what human education and what pathology of hurt to all areas, to have it blamed on everything else but itself, and to measure people, the leaderships of nations only realize this. This is a method of human the captivation of human value nature system, based on the exploitation of the revelations of ancient revelations. So in other words, human and actual human nature and interactions, which are original internation science originally brought beyond the sophistication that the ages that have followed have had the honesty and or the the education to teach this. So I mean the proper education. In other words, we haven't had criminal insidiousness narratives taken, insidiously justified and even glorified with the history of our nations. We haven't had that understood. We haven't had it understood, because each of our nations shares a common enemy, but none of them understand it. So what it did was inherit everybody pseudo identities. English is revealed to teach about the only unchanging space nature positive identity. And this is shared. One proof is that we're a species beyond our control. The finite, being individual beyond our control. Bodies of value. Now we have control. Now, I'll say, I say, English is a vertical and is a horizontal correlation nature with longing three ways, five ways. Allah's name is used to teach this, as well as Jesus Christ, where He says, I am the Alpha and I am the Omega." They saved the English alphabet. Alpha. That's the root of the word alphabet. The alphabet works just like a body. Like it shares one positive identity actively, and this ancient sciences are together active, revealed to teach this. So Excalibur is about extinction. Now I'm not. I know each letter spells a different word, and each word spells out a different sentence. Excalibur spells out energy, extinguishes, consciousness is alpha, longing, identity, body. Your rise. XYZ. Life ends at physical life ends at X. The value of consciousness remains, and it remains correlationally in relationship to what is only of progressive value to itself. Otherwise, it's forcing that what is not that away from itself, longing it away from itself, as it's coming through this negative value nature, this semi positive value nature, inherent to every temporary nature, is unchanging positive value nature. See, we only have not now for choices, and because of the nature of what maintained human education, obfuscated from its own revelation, from its own ability to ratiocination, from its own body's positive identity, and justifying that, and then having that only glorified since ancient times, basic concept of education and things like that. That's why we have problems with our schools, all areas. We have physical delusions with psychology. I'm not a doctor, but this is demonstrably an industry with uncharged but known predicate acts throughout our history too, as well, internation, and with their roles with originally set up colonization, had sick terror laws and methods for purpose for long-term breaching methods, not for England, not just for France and Spain and all these other nations. It was for what they shared in relationship as peace, what they call peace in relationship to wars. But then they're inherent to the maintenance of an originally criminally legalized international inter-nation sciences maintained criminal, and then maintained as evidence fabrication natures justifying it. For example, with nuclear weapons, we could say that the whole world doesn't want it. We don't want a war anywhere. We don't want any more bombs going off. We could say that we don't want infrastructural standards that are reliant upon how they denature the landscape, put all the waters underground, keep all kinds of chemical disgusting denatured things. You can't even eat the fish and the stuff in your lands. dependent upon international companies. So then these people have everyone, all kinds of business interests to stay broken, to stay exploiting each other. This is what colonization's laws were about. This is what stole English. English, there are proofs that originally internation science revealed English, not England. It was preserved through there. Because the whole world, originally, they ratiocination is revelations, is the process of revelation. You take all that's not, you don't know for a fact, and you push it away. See, but people say what they know for a fact with, like, they calling it, they say, oh, you have to say extreme Islam is bad. Then we can't even teach, because there is a range that extreme positive there's a range it will not go beyond. And when we do that, we're negative value nature. So while our negative value nature is diffusing, it's being pushed away. And what that causes is negative value nature progression is a demonstration to us. But we lost the means to interpret, to understand ancient revelations, what humanity had already evolved and been shown by what actively teaches. That's how the sciences are of one, because the sciences share the same positive identity as us, actively. So there's to the same task, but this task isn't it's divided. And it's holding in ways that are holding opinions of natures as evidence fabrication natures, but also they're being justified in complex litigation in context, in relationship to positions we don't understand. We're not being let to understand it because of lies that they're forcing to have to be dictated. For example, in relationship to the nuclear weapons, there was long enough time for them to set up all kinds of connections between the Americans and Russians and Chinese and all these European nations with the bombs now too. Our original colonizers. But they were colonized too, in other words. I'm not saying. No, I'm saying we can't put physics before metaphysics to understand this. The history. You have to put metaphysics is understanding before this. So you have to understand what had them from the geopolitical campus and geopolitical legal natures. What had them maniacs with roles with this together insidiously. So they're calling the wars of their own nations and natures of and methods of extortion of their own kings and queens, even and leaders like that, even of messengers of religions, because they don't have messengers of religions did not have control over campuses. They didn't have control over international science. It had already been criminally re-engineered. So what they had to do was to defend all humanity, but through the people they could, had to play to counter insidiousness, counters, because everyone already had to work with people already holding on to convictions. Still, we have this problem, and then as sciences with no vision, people see or even contemplate all the mass amount of people in homes working hard just to stay in these homes when they're not even positive value nature. They're to standards of colonization. Everyone's a retreat nature, regardless of you make success monetary wise or whatever. We lost on many fronts in the American Revolution. And the proofs of it aren't being let because we don't have free speech before the courts. There are proofs, just like we need Latin as a language to free ourselves from inside of courts or outside of courts when there's interbranch corruption or something like that. Any habeas corpus, habeas certiorari, and all those things like that. But who knows how to work? I mean, who knows? We don't. We need to understand. For example, in the beginning of this nation, they had lawyers, but they were no good with slavery. Not one of them. You know what I'm saying? We have to understand criminally legalized criminal enterprises in since ancient times, because they only let the branches of nations entertained, trained to further to the justifications of that. So what's that do? You know, so I, I haven't really contemplated, but I could, in other words, consciousness alpha longs energies diffusion, freeing walls, identity, consciousness highs. High is a word is a word used to teach with sciences working together with English. See, what they did, ancients, was make this with a drug term, and they maintain it as a drug term, high, because now they're obfuscating what they don't want understood through time in the relationship of what's holding nations, self-defending roles with predatory internation sciences and with predatory internation business positions and human standards and opinions. So we have opinions that are self-defeating. And that it's been entertained like this, only let train realize like this. So we have to understand we have a common enemy, nations, but it's not one nation. If we could, all we have to do is have that, just admit it. If one nation, say, then that nation is right. Any one nation do that, then we're going to talk. People in this nation will agree second so one nation says it. We should be the first and just keep saying it. We know where this is wrong. See, but we can't, I'm saying not with bombs. You know what I'm saying? We're saying we understand we have to counter. We can't, but to really, if the counter is really in the right hands, then it's offensive. In other words, these are human standards are broke, and there's proofs of it too. Why would we be in infrastructural standards when they had terror, not letting them build any better? When they had like the Victorian homes and stuff, it wasn't just because of fire. They make the more dangerous with for the terrorists, for the colonists. They had them every way, their time and energy and nature, as breaching armies, the modern nations in founding, animal prisons, in healthcare, and no one realizes, because everyone just they say, oh, humble, and then kids grow up like that, but no one's defending reality. You know what I'm saying? It's like a serial killer, mass serial killer, with the laws they have with colonization. It motivates people to it because it's against our nature, but the campus is making the nature be hurt. Evidence fabrication, nature's tolerant. We have to understand proofs recorded of police forms with roles in natures, with healthcare, with roles with our schools, with recorded like insidious maintenance of natures of crime that have been progressing through time in relationship to the way criminal justice has been trained to defend itself as an industry, and will her conviction natures with that. See, but we have to pull it we have to have a means for free speech in the streets, otherwise they offensively evidence fabricate, and they know that because they admitted that. And it's through time we have it known, but we don't have, in other words, natures of legal stewards capable of doing anything about it. And no, I was attached to fake conversations about this stuff. I never had any conversations with doctors about anything like that. I made a police report because everyone was making confessions about police in my town, in Weathersfield, Connecticut. and they got involved with like some untimely deaths, and they got involved with like drugs with some Enzo Vianza and people I don't know. But like a stranger came up to me and made all kinds of confessions, and police, they sent me, confirmed it. I don't, but everyone's lying because they did. What happened was there was federal criminals involved with families that had like a daughter in my grade, and they were defendants with a former director of the FBI, for example, after they were involved in pensions theft stuff and all kinds of other people associated with all kinds of other federal crimes. And then in 2000, in a part of a 2006 case, and then there's people from that who've been through, and with the court who sent all kinds of rape threats against women to me and stuff like that. And then when I try to report these things, then they arrest me. So in other words, they already did this in the databases, but because they know no one will speak to me, they can just say whatever because they have interbranch people now in trouble. Per them too, they have per multiple people, they have court police involved or something. But in other words, well, there's we have to look at there's modern proofs and experience that is correlative to the same nature of crimes that were affected by original breaching methods, staying colonists as hurt conviction nature roles with international terror methods, evidence fabrication methods to all areas. That's where sick like terror law, slavery, witch trials, the laws against the people if they hurt their whole families. If one person was met, like say I went to go meet colonist Joe and talk about building an infrastructure, like but we didn't do it in a monitored database relation area. In other words, they marked everything. They had written databases, and they were in relationship to each other. And they were sharing, putting down a forced criminal international market system. Everyone was forced to this market nature system, and it shared policing together. And what that does is share agreements that are fundamentally unconstitutional. But we have the Constitution tied to original. It's still breached. We still don't have free speech because we have it forced to hurt convictions, natures, and hurt evidence fabrication methods and causes offensive. Because the treatment of humanity with our low level courts is disgusting, and treatment of justice itself and of safety and of human value is disgusting. That's why we've had these cities like this for so long, so human standards, and everyone blaming on prejudice and stuff like that. They're blaming on prejudice because everyone's evidence fabrication nature once they try to talk about it. No one wants to talk about the reality is the actual impositions, the actual logistical impositions upon countless people because of this. So the best way to do it is take a New York City, and we can fix the whole thing with we have to do it with pantheism, which is not about many gods. This is about the only shared positive identity that all nations have. And this is not, I wouldn't be able to figure this out if it hadn't been for the educational damage control counters and the preservations that Jesus Christ and that Muhammad, thank God, did to save English in algebra. Islam helped save algebra, helped pull Europe from to new insidiousness narratives to help them save education. They were going to be made even stupider and more savage if Islam hadn't come along. They would understand their religion less because they didn't The messengers didn't have control of human education. That's why Jesus says, I am the Alpha, I am the Omega. He's trying to talk to us about English and about what sabotaged ancient revelations, including the language of English, which was an internation science. There are proofs of it. Because how it is still obfuscated. So we have to understand G, J, P, Q, Y. These are the lowercase Y and how. These are the lowercase letters with the extensions below the ground, below the line. And high refers to above the line. But it also refers to what's above the line is unchanging positive. But again, unchanging positive. If it's not our complete identity, it's forced away from here, Leth of Hades. And then it remains our identity, this progressively so, which is Hades, without the Leth. Then we're negative value nature in relationship to positive value nature somewhere else. This is how the ancients more demonstrably taught English. Teach it more properly, because we're talking about nature, and it was an independent nature. We're talking about the identity that is only an independent nature, which is the predicate, which is a shared identity between the subject and the main verb. But it's a verb could be a predicate by itself when it's if it's a one-word sentence, for example. Because now it still has an independent nature. A verb that's not a main verb has to be used as a participle nature or as an infinitive nature if it's in the same clause with a main verb. Only one verb can be the main verb. So, and then I have to go back to the video. I have to make the second video on the Old Testament. Adam is the subject and Eve is the verb, the main verb. And this shows how the sciences work together in relationship to, for example, for a predicate act, which is a criminal act caused by and in the furtherance of a criminal enterprise, referring to ones that are international now and international, with the nature of America's original impositions and what colonization was, really. And the American Revolution was not a war in relationship to England. That's why we use our language. This was to force, this is in relationship to the nature of the extortion of the kings and queens of England, too, in relationship to their own legal natures. There are proofs of this too, with in all kinds of ways, the linguistic extortion of our most sophisticated, with ignorance that's forced on our leaders, with treatments of issues and with the media. What really guides the media is our legal nature. They want us to claim it to other things, and we have a lot to address. But so Excalibur there's only one point. There's only one point that is active with everything, and it's in conjunction to everything, and it's that doesn't hurt. There's only one positive that doesn't hurt. If we put physics before metaphysics, can never understand the infrastructure or how to gather the means to it to make a garden. That's what religions are about. Why it's not just about like some dream of a garden in a backyard. It's only what's inherent to that, which is overall. This is what Native Americans are trying to remember themselves, and they're trying to get other people to remember it, because other people are not even dealing with reality. What brought all forth all these species actively together.